Hey guys, I'm here in my South Philly row home and in the process of renovating it. But in the course of this, I wanted to show you something. Right here in this wall, this is a plaster wall over brick. Got this crack going from top to bottom the whole way. And normally I would think to just cover it up, but I might actually open it up to see what's there, because as we will see on the floor below, it might be a little more extensive than than it seems. I'm going down the steps right now to show you. This is directly below, just below the stairs, if you can see. And that's what we're dealing with here. This is maybe more than an inch wide in some places, especially up there. Now there are a couple of reasons why I'm not really concerned about it. It's not a structural issue. I'm gonna fill these cracks in with some mortar and call it a day. The reason I say that is because I can see that the joists are in good shape. Joist here behind me. I see some of it just because of the amount of weight I'm putting above with leveling out with the floor heating and everything. But these joists are sitting in the brick pretty tight. I don't see any issues with it. Nothing is sagging. Everything seems to be good. Here we have another crack in the brick. But it's a much smaller crack. So to me, the way I see the situation is everything from the staircase all the way to the back of the house basically settled over the 100 years that this house existed, and it settled more in the back than here in the front. It kind of settled mostly in the back. The whole structure kind of got pulled down just a little bit, if you imagine it going on an angle. And in fact, that is the angle, the slope I have on the floor from the staircase going all the way back about 3 inches. And something has to give, and what gave is this brick wall. And so it just separated in some points. There's this spot here. There's the major crack right there that we saw. But after 100 years, this house found its place, right? They put the fieldstone foundation in 100 years ago. It was all brand new construction back then. And I'm sure that they compacted whatever they needed to, and they dug out, and they thought the soil was good and everything. Well, after 100 years, after everything it's been through, floods, whatever it may have gone through, now it's found its place. I mean, that foundation is not going anywhere. Everything settles over time, and it's settled to the point where it is. So at this point, for me to try to level out the floor above by messing with the joists would be, how do I put it, like completely stupid. I mean, the joists are sitting in the brick. They're in good shape. Everything looks good. Structurally, this is very sound. The only issue I have is I have to fill in the cracks. That's just more of a sound issue between neighbors, etc. But I also have to level out the floor above, right? Because that is not level. So let's take a look upstairs and see what I did to level it out. So here we are upstairs at the top of the stairs, and as I mentioned, there used to be a major slope here. Now I already kind of took care of it, almost finished taking care of it. So if you can see from where I'm standing at the top of the stairs to the back of the room where I have the kitchen, the difference in height of the floor was about, like this point right here was about 3.5 inches. So with something like that, you've got a couple of options. You can do, I could have done sleepers on the floor and just built a new floor over it with plywood or OSB. Sleepers would be tapered, and I'd have to find the slope, and the slope is changing every couple feet, so it's not even a consistent slope. So try to do that would be pretty difficult. Not undoable, but I would just basically have a floor over a floor. Then you fill in with insulation and everything. So what I decided to do instead was I'm actually installing a floor heating system, hydronic floor heating, radiant floor heating. And as part of that, I'm able to level out the floor with the mortar and concrete that I use to cover the pipes. So now obviously that's adding a lot of weight to the floor. So for me, I looked at it, and the joists that we saw below are not traditional, I mean not regular dimensional lumber, which is a 2x lumber. The joists are actually 2 3/4 inches thick. So we're talking about almost double in thickness, and they're spaced at 16 inches. So, I mean, even though they're only like 8 inches deep, they're only spanning 12 feet. And so we're talking about a pretty beefy joist. So for me, I looked at it and I said, you know what, that's gonna support the additional maybe 20 PSF that I'm adding across the floor by adding this concrete. So the way I did this is I have, first of all, I've got my cement mixer right here, which helped a lot. And I've just been putting down concrete that I mix in bags, leveling it out as I go. And at the end, so I end up with something like this, which is not totally flat, but using a level quick or self-leveler, I can then get this very level and smooth surface that's ready for the final flooring, which is going to be one of these, looking something like that. I mean, exactly like that. That is the flooring, and this is a LVT plank. So that's a floating floor that's gonna be right over this self-leveling topping layer. Now, just to show you how I did it, I put down, it's an example of a small section I still have yet to do here in the hallway. I put down a 3mm plastic sheet so that I don't have all the water being soaked up by the wood. And then I laid out all of my PEX tubing using these plastic straps, which are really cheap, just to anchor it down. And in some places where it was very high, like in the back of the last room that we saw, I put some rigid insulation board, which has you have to find the one that's not going to have too much give, and this was a very rigid one that you can actually walk on. So I put that down to take up some of the additional height, so that I end up with only about 2 inches of concrete maximum, and not like 3.5 inches. So in this room here, as you can see, I already have the self-leveler down for more than half the room. This area, I still have this concrete layer here, and some mortar or whatever I had to use here, because the level of the room is not level in any direction. It's, in some places it dips down, in some places it's high up near the wall, and the best way to level it out, in my opinion, was I just put in this heating system. I'm going to have radiant floor heating, pretty luxurious, and in the process I get to also level out my floors. So end up with a final product that is, just exactly what you want. Now, doing this in your house, you have to take into consideration the additional weight. This is about, in some places, it's 20 PSF, 20 pounds per square foot. Maybe less in some places if it's only an inch or a thinner layer. If it's 2 inches of concrete, that could be 20 PSF. That's a lot of weight to add across the entire floor. So you have to make sure that your joists can support that. In my case, I saw that my joists were very beefy to begin with because this was built 100 years ago. And just in case, I also reinforced some of those joists by sistering just regular dimensional lumber to it with glue and construction screws. Just a little added, insurance policy, let's say, just so that it's not shaking, it's not, don't have too much deflection or anything. So, but, after putting down the concrete, I jumped on it, I walked on it, I can stack bags and bags of concrete, and it doesn't move, the concrete doesn't crack, I have nothing, it's solid. So I think it definitely worked out in this case.